You know, compared to the Mario franchise, Zelda really doesn't have that many spin-offs now, does it? Let's see, there's Link's Crossbow Training, the Tingle games on DS, and the CDI games if you really feel like giving them any attention. But then there is one game that stands out among all of these. Hyrule Warriors. A crossover between the world of Zelda and the gameplay of Dynasty Warriors. Prepare for a hot take here, but this bizarre fusion of a game, in my opinion, is in the top 5 Zelda games of all time. That's right, I love this game that much. This review will explain why I believe this game is an underrated gem in this new episode of Here's Why. In the long ago year of 2013, Nintendo announced a new Zelda game in their Nintendo Direct. But this game would be unlike any other game in the series. For one, it was developed by Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo, not Nintendo. And second of all, this was a Warriors game. For those of you who may not know, Dynasty Warriors is a decently popular series well known for the sheer number of enemies you take down at a single time. You fight hundreds and hundreds of enemies per minute in these games. The Warriors series constantly collaborates with other well-known IP as well, such as Gundam, Dragon Quest, One Piece, and more recently Persona and even Fire Emblem. The game released on the Wii U in 2014 to critical acclaim, however it didn't sell too well, since, you know, Wii U. Just when it seemed the game was over and done with, it released as Hyrule Warriors Legends on the 3DS of all things, adding new characters and new maps. Since this was during the later years of the 3DS's lifespan, it didn't sell too well, and the game didn't run well at all, even on the new 3DS. But then, the Switch came out, and in 2018, the very best version of the game released, compiling the original game with the Legends content and even more. I adore this game. My history with this game is fairly straightforward. The Wii U era is when I properly began following gaming news and new releases, and I managed to get this game on the Wii U not too long after it released, as I was beginning to really get into the Zelda series. And I loved it. I spent at least a couple hundred hours on the Wii U version alone. Then I skipped out on the 3DS version and bought the definitive edition on the day of release, and relived the entire experience all over again. The most important aspect of any Warriors game is the gameplay, and this game may be the best in that regard. Mowing down hundreds of enemies with a single attack chain will never not get gratifying. The main goal of each level is to capture enemy keeps and outposts, while also protecting your own, defeating all enemies you might find in your way. And each level usually ends with a boss fight, be it against an enemy commander or a huge classic Zelda boss, such as King Dodongo, Manhandler, or Goma, and more. Much like regular Zelda games, you gain several items to use on your journey, like bombs and boomerangs. These are mainly used to stun bosses. For example, when Goma's eye starts glowing, use the bow to stun her, much like the traditional Zeldas. And I need to praise how amazingly they translated all of these Zelda traditions into this new gameplay style. But it could also mean you just stand there waiting for the bosses to expose their weak point, since the items are the only way to effectively stun them. There's also a layer of strategy here. You can command and keep track of your units via the pause menu. All of this may sound like a lot to someone who has never played a Musou game before, but it will come to you by the second level. Oh, and this game's roster is godlike. There are 31 characters here spanning across the entire Zelda timeline, at least before Breath of the Wild. And each and every one is unique with their own gameplay styles, and some characters even have multiple. Link can use the Master Sword, Fire Rod, Epona, and a Great Fairy, and that's only some of them. I think I'll go over some of my favourite characters. Young Link is my main. He is incredibly powerful and really fast, with some of the flashiest attacks in the game. And then there's Skull Kid, who has some fun, hard-hitting projectiles, and then there's Marin from Link's Awakening, who is a truly bizarre inclusion with decent strength. And King Daphne's is just funny. However, some characters feel really bad. Zant, for example, has long-ass animations that leave him wide open. And then there's Tingle. Well, he tries his best. Each character can be leveled up and get stronger as you keep playing them. They even have skill trees that add new moves, healing items, and boosts, which all can be found in the Bazaar, where you spend materials found during battle to buy upgrades, craft potions, fuse weapons, or level up by spending rupees. Completionists beware, however, because the amount of content compacted into this cartridge is unreal, and there is so much grinding since each character can be leveled up to 255. That's even higher than the Wii U version where the max level was 99. After the fairly lengthy story mode, there are 10 adventure maps, which are based on certain Zelda games, with the first one mirroring the original Zelda game map 1-to-1. So many levels and challenges, which each can be A-ranked and most even have secrets hidden within them. Each map has a unique gimmick. For example, the Termina map, based on Majora's Mask, has a clock that ticks down, and once it reaches 0, the moon falls, and the entire map resets, unless you have collected all 4 giants, being one huge homage to Majora's Mask. All of this without even mentioning what's new to the Switch version, really. The biggest one is that you can control up to 4 characters during levels now, by switching between them with the D-pad. This makes the strategy elements so much more fun to play. And then there are the owl statues, which allow you to teleport across the map, instead of forcing you to run everywhere. These small things make the game even more enjoyable to play, and more accessible. I bought this game when it first came out on the Wii U and Switch, and still find myself playing this game every now and then. In fact, while writing this script, I am once again completely hooked to the game and I can't stop playing. However, there are 2 gameplay features that feel kind of half-baked. First of all, the local co-op isn't very good. Split screen makes it almost impossible to see everything that's on screen at times, and the otherwise solid 60 FPS dips greatly. Other than that, My Fairy is a new mode to the Switch version, and to be honest, I've barely touched this mode. So as far as I can tell, you gain customizable fairy companions and use them to gain buffs. This mode just feels shoehorned in and adds yet another thing to collect. But these are mere nitpicks. The gameplay is beyond solid in this game. So what's the story? Why are all of these characters in the same game? Well, it kind of reads like a fanfiction. When Ganondorf was defeated long ago, his soul was split into fragments, all sealed in different moments in time, aka the timelines, as well as inside the Master Sword itself. Then this new character, Cia, who protects the Triforce, becomes infatuated with Link, causing Cia to become consumed in her desires, opening the Gate of Souls, which is a portal to different time-space realities of Hyrule. Basically, which is what allows all of these different characters to come together. From Ocarina of Time, we have Darunia and Ruto. From Twilight Princess, Midna and Agatha? Okay. And Fi from Skyward Sword, as well as their respective villains. I said it sounds like a fanfiction, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. This game is jam-packed with fan service for Zelda fans as it is, so let's go all out with it. In this story, Link starts out as a grunt in Zelda's army, and works his way up the ranks and finds out he's the hero, yada yada yada, beats Ganon, beats Cia. Oh, and after the main story, the Wind Waker part happens, which is also pretty neat. I do have one fairly big complaint about the story though, and this game as a whole really. This was made before Breath of the Wild, meaning there is no voice acting. This makes cutscenes feel weird and awkward, more so than prior Zelda games. And during gameplay, it forces you to read the dialogue boxes to see who needs your support, which can mess you up sometimes. The cutscenes are still gorgeously animated though, I mean just look at this. The story mode as a whole takes up a tiny portion of the game, but if you are going for completion, it may take you a little bit longer, since each level has 2 golden skulltulas to collect, 2 heart containers, which can only be found by specific characters, and multiple difficulty options that all need to be completed. But even then, compared to the adventure mode maps, this will take you no time at all. This game maybe has some of the best characters in the entire Zelda series. So many of these characters have never looked better in my opinion. Link still wears his traditional green attire with a tad more armor and an awesome blue scarf which looks amazing. Zelda is mwah, chef's kiss. She looks ready to battle with the armor, but also still looks real and elegant like a princess should. And Ganon. Man. Ganon. Basically, if his Twilight Princess design went Super Saiyan 3, and it looks just perfect for this game. She and Impa both have new designs, which mix and match elements of ninjas and samurai, which are both huge improvements if you ask me. Aside from that, the returning characters all look pretty much as they do in their original games for the most part. It could be argued that there is a lot of conflicting art styles here, especially between the Twilight Princess and Wind Waker characters. But it personally doesn't bother me all that much. Seeing King Daphne's next to Midna is just cool in my opinion. Then all of the Hyrule Warrior specific characters fit in pretty well, to the point where I really want Linkle and Lana to return in the canon of the games, because I love them so much. Especially Linkle. She is kind of like a female version of Link who wields crossbows, meaning she is a reference to Link's crossbow training. They really did try to put practically every Zelda game into this game in some way. And then Sia is just okay to me. Her design is fine and she serves her role in the story well enough. Volga and Wizro are fun enough to play and to look at too, especially Volga with his giant dragon form. Of course it doesn't stop there. Most characters have plentiful alternate outfits. Too many to go into great detail, but if these new redesigns don't do it for you, there are many other options to pick from. You can even just rip models from the original games, for example Twilight Princess Link or Ocarina of Time Ganondorf. Outside of the characters, the game looks pretty great on Switch. The colours are nice and the textures have been slightly improved in the port. Pop-in can sometimes be a bit jarring though, but this is quite rare. Then the handheld version even looks pretty good, despite the frame rate dips. With all of the characters in this game, I'm surprised at the amount of detail put into their animations. For example, we all know the old school chest opening thingy. And in this game, each character, all 31 of them, has their own chest opening animations. I just love how Ganondorf kicks open the chest, or how young Link looks exactly out of Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. Then they all have unique introduction animations and winning animations, all full of charm and genuine love for these characters. Some modern Dynasty Warriors games don't have all of this. Finally, the music. Oh, the music. Both the rock remixes of old Zelda themes and original tunes are all absolute bangers and fit the gameplay perfectly. My favourite track must be their rendition of Skyloft. I think it's safe to say that I like this game a lot. But I understand that it's definitely not for everyone. There is a lot of grinding here and the gameplay can be a bit repetitive. But as a huge fan of both Dynasty Warriors and Zelda, I can't help but to adore this game. Everything about it, from the bonkers story mode to the intense detail and love given to these characters, just makes this game something special to me. I totally recommend this game to any Switch owner that is even slightly interested in Zelda or Warriors games. Who knows, I might even review its sequel, Age of Calamity, in the future. And as always, thank you so much for watching this episode of Here's Why. I hope to be releasing these a little bit more frequently in the future. In fact, I already have notes written down for the next game I'll be covering. It's only a matter of time until it comes out.